everyone, and welcome to episode 6 of the Outreach Project podcast. I'm joined with Josh Melching, and we are excited to bring you today's show. But before we kick it off, we can't do it without our sponsors. Let's hear it from War's End.
It's me again, War's End, custom flags, custom coin racks, all made by me personally. Do some engraving. You want a good going away. You want something for your corporate events, things to hang on the wall to commemorate years and years of service for somebody special. Hit me up, and I'll get you taken care of.
And a special thank you to our sponsors, because without our sponsors, the show is it's just us, and we like to have people partnered with us to provide resources across this gap, fill the void. But when we think about partnership and we think about the mission, Josh, like what is it that we've been 28 days since we kicked off the outreach project, and a lot of things have been moving. We got the website up and things like that, but what are we missing out there? What do the people need to know about what the project is doing and where it's going to go?
I think as far as sponsors go first, people that are going to align with us, we've already had a couple step up. We are looking for more people with, the same vision. They want to support the community. They want to support veterans, first responders. They like what we're doing. Get on board with us. Shoot us a message. Get on board the sponsor train. Like, we want to keep this thing going. We don't get paid to do this. So the sponsors are what's going to allow us to keep doing it with the software and the cameras and all that good stuff. So, but as far as we go, man, we're 28 days into this. Website's live. People are watching the shows. They're using the resources. They're giving us the feedback. And we want to grow it. And I think, moving forward, I see this gaining traction, getting a little bit more, maybe in the spotlight down the road. So, I'm looking for people to get behind it and really, not put your money where your mouth is. That's not really the term I want to use, but, it kind of fits, you know what I mean? So get on board and shoot us a message if you want to be more involved than just watching.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have just grown accustomed to a nonprofit being the only thing that we want to talk about or partner with. And it's not. It can be further from the truth. We love what the nonprofit's doing. We want to connect people to resources, but like-minded people, businesses that aren't nonprofits but want to support the mission, that's the space that we haven't tapped into just yet. I know we've got some people stepping in, but that's going to be exciting once that starts to kind of take shape. And you mentioned the spotlight for you guys out there, the YouTube channel. We finally got it, I guess, spaced out the way we need it to, and it's going to function a lot better. But you're going to see the nonprofit podcast, the things that we're going to focus on a weekly basis. That's going to go in its own video thread, and then below that you'll have your other spotlight that's going to kick off. And man, I'm excited about that. We've got our first guest lined up, and we're already talking to them. We've got quite a few guests lined up for the spotlight, and those are people who that are not running a nonprofit or aren't the president of this, that, and another, but they're just badass people out there trying to support people like us to connect guys and gals to those resources to make sure that we don't wake up every morning and catch the shitty news or the bad news. Like, every once in a while, it's just okay to connect somebody to something that's good. And I think that's what people are trying to do. Speaking of trying to do it, though, we do have people out there that are still crushing it. Can you give us an update from our guests that we've had on in the previous shows?
Yeah. So just a quick rundown of what these guys are doing. They're back out in the field. The HHO guys, Hometown Hero Outdoors guys, are out there at Harris Ranch right now. Been out there a couple weeks. They've had an all-female hunt. They've had veteran hunts in general. I think they're doing 2 or 3 weeks in a row of just straight hunting to end up and finish up the season and put all those deer in freezers for families. And then on to Veterans Creek Outdoors. They're doing an event, a fundraiser with Hero to the Line, which helps get hunting dogs for service members as well, the 28th and 29th of March. And then they're working towards their God in the Great Outdoors Expo in June. And then finally, the Frontline Healing Foundation is out in Vegas. And oddly enough, we were able to connect another organization that reached out to us after watching their episode, Freedom Hunters, and they're also going to be at SHOT Show. So we linked them up, and they have since met up at SHOT Show and are doing collaboration stuff on their own, which is awesome to see. So that's exactly what we wanted.
Yeah, it's good whenever you get that kind of feedback and you're seeing the things actually take shape when you're out there trying to connect those types of organizations with each other. I think that was a normer for us was like, is our organization sharing, resources and things like that. We found out that it's quite a bit. They do that stuff, and now they're collaborating with each other. And we were just so new to the space. But our next guest, we have Mr. Tom from the Freedom Alliance.
Hmm.
That dude is stud, man. I mean, he comes onto the show and he's kind of making light of things, and it's just because he's been in this business for 27 years, and I don't think there's anything you can throw at him that kind of he hasn't seen already. But the way he can kind of just capture it and deliver just that one story when we asked him a question was unique because it nailed everything we asked him right on the head because he's obviously been in there doing this for 27 years, so it's very very unique to get that kind of perspective from someone being a president of such a large nonprofit. We've got scholarship programs. He threw some data at us. When you guys are looking at this show, like think about what this man and his other was it 17 or 18 people?
15.
Yeah, 15 people.
Yep.
We're talking 920 scholarships given to children of either men and women who have died serving their country. $33 million equated to that. And that's
Hmm.
just amazing. That's amazing. 25 homes given to veterans, like just flat out given to them because they're working back through their process, healing, and they're rehabilitating. And that's just one of the ways that Freedom Alliance has found a way to connect with these types of people. They also have a vehicle program and things like that. Now, Josh, you know these guys real well. This is kind of the people who jump started your path, your journey. And oddly enough, we're sitting here talking about it right now, but I'm pretty sure this show is it's special to you, right?
Yeah, I mean, my mom said I can do two things. I can chew bubble gum and change lives, and I'm all out of bubble gum. And this episode does it for me, man. This is a game
Yes.
changer. Like this is
Yes.
really just this is the one, man. The Freedom Alliance, their guys, some of my best friends are working for the Freedom Alliance or people that I've met through the Freedom Alliance. I found my new tribe when I got out of the military through the Freedom Alliance, through the events that they have, through their people, through the people that work for them. And true, when I say rock star, man, they are true, um, amazing rock star patriots, every single one of them,
Yeah.
and I love them all. So yeah, they're amazing.
Yeah, you guys will feel it when you watch the show. Mr. Tom, he very professional, but man, when he gets to telling those stories, you're going to feel it through the camera. Like some of the programs, I know Josh was talking about War Heroes and Water, but there's so much more to dig into. So
Mhm.
let's just kick it off right now. Let's watch a highlight from the Freedom Alliance.
Honestly, I think Alaska is probably like one of the most beautiful places on the planet. Everything you see here looks like a screensaver.
You're surrounded by cliffs and volcano and trees, and it's just serene.
Being out in the water, it's a nice break from life. You don't have to worry about anything. You can just have some peace and calmness.
And you're out there fishing, gives you a little sense of peace.
Well, when you're out on the water in a place like this, it shows you that the world is a beautiful place, and if you open your mind up to it and just be willing to embrace it, it's there for you.
Welcome to episode 6 of the Outreach Project podcast. I'm lucky enough to have the Freedom Alliance in the studio today. Good friends of mine, great mentors, great people. And I got my co-host with me, Hodge. What you got, Hodge? You excited or what?
I am excited. I'm very excited to talk to Mr. Tom. I watched some videos that you sent me earlier in the day. And Mr. Tom, you said something that a lot of people don't understand. And I think that's why Freedom Alliance is the way that it is and cast that wide net that we talked about. But you said that military service is a family occupation. It's a family business. So I'm excited to see what you guys do, the full spectrum of the family support, because obviously I've drug around my poor wife for 20 years, and man, she's been in the trenches just as much as I have. So we appreciate what you do, and I can't wait to talk about it.
Sounds good. Looking forward to it.
Yes, sir.
And I'm going to try and not talk too much. everyone from the Freedom Alliance. Some of my best friends in the whole world are from the Freedom Alliance. So I'm just going to try and not get overzealous myself. But Tom, without further ado, you're the president of the Freedom Alliance. Great mentor of mine. If you wouldn't mind introducing yourself and kind of telling us a little bit about your position, kind of in the organization.
Yeah, Josh, happy to. Thanks for having me on the program. And Hodge, great to meet you and look forward to our conversation tonight. It is, and I want to congratulate you on the outreach project and wish you well on what you're doing, because this is really important part, and it's something that we try to do at Freedom Alliance, which is not just provide support to veterans and military families, but also to tell their stories. And when we do certain things, we want to, we go into a community, we want that community to know that there's somebody living amongst them who has served their country, who has sacrificed, uh, just somebody we consider a hero, and tell those stories, and it becomes part of our history. It becomes part of the public's understanding of what veterans have gone through, what military families have endured, and so what you're doing is extremely important, and I wish you well on it. And honored to be a guest on the outreach project. And what Freedom Alliance does is we're a military support organization. We're helping primarily combat veterans and military families, mostly of the global war on terror generation. And we do that in numerous ways. And we're having, we, a lot of what we do is retreats. And we take veterans out on fishing trips, mostly into the mountains. What we believe is we want to get vets into the great outdoors, because the sunshine and the fresh air and the camaraderie of other veterans who've been there, done that, are some of the best tools for helping veterans to heal. And so we do a lot of those, and we can get into what those do and how we work. We're providing, in some cases, mortgage-free homes and payment-free vehicles. And we have one project that we're really proud of, and has been with Freedom Alliance since our founding, and that is our scholarship program. And that scholarship program is giving college tuition to kids whose parents were killed or disabled in military service. That means that we're providing scholarships to the sons and daughters of American heroes. And this year, I'm proud to tell you that, or in 2025, just finished up, we gave scholarships to 920 students, and and gave them $3.7 million to help them with their education. And since 9/11, that's over $33 million now that we've given out to help them. And we do that because, as you guys know, a college education doesn't get any cheaper as we move forward in time, and it just keeps getting more and more expensive. So obviously, you have the practical support. But what's really important, and it's similar to what you're doing here, is it's symbolic. And that scholarship is a reminder to each student who receives one that their parents' sacrifice is never going to be forgotten by a grateful nation. And so when you give that scholarship to a kid, um, they work harder and they study longer, because they know that the way they qualified for it is through their parents' sacrifice. And that's what makes it different, what makes it unique. You have a lot of kids in school who qualify for a scholarship because they're great at lacrosse or at football or in academics. But here, with the Freedom Alliance scholarship, first and foremost, it is the sacrifice of the parent that qualifies the student. And I'm really happy that uh, in almost all cases, the students, they work really hard, and then they earn it through getting good grades and keeping up a strong GPA.
You had mentioned the mortgage-free homes and the vehicle. I know you talked in your video about people needing Ubers to get the VA and stuff, but you kind of moved past those and you got really excited about this scholarship. How do they reach out and get associated with the Freedom Alliance to get scholarship support?
Through our website is the main way, the best way, and that's freedomalliance.org. Freedomalliance.org will get you there, or fascholarship.com will take you directly to the scholarship page. And once you get there, the way we do it, Hodge, is You have to be uh, you have to have graduated high school or will graduate high school, be accepted into a college or university, and then we're going to ask for your parents' credentials, your DD 214 or a death certificate, and just make sure that all that lines up. But once it does, it's a real honor to be able to work with these students um, and the remaining parent and just help them. And what the other interesting thing about this scholarship is that um, if you lost a parent in the line of duty, I mean, you guys tell me, how old were the friends that you lost in combat? They were in their early 20s, right?
Yeah.
In
20s.
most
Yeah,
cases.
mainly.
And so the kids they had at home when they passed, they're young, 2, 3, 4, 5 years old. And so when they get to the point where they can apply for this scholarship, a lot of time has passed. And so it dredges up memories. It brings back
Mm.
a lot of feelings. But much of that is positive because all those years later, what the supporters of Freedom Alliance are saying is your dad's not forgotten. We remember.
Mm.
And and we're going to honor him. And we're going to honor him. And in some cases, we've had mothers who lost their lives. We're going to honor them by virtue of sending you to school, and that means you got to work hard and go to class and spend more time in the library than any other student.
And
Yes.
Tom, I kind of want to I kind of want to back up a little bit. One of the things that we got, even since we started the podcast, was kind of just some questions about who we're having on and stuff like that. And it was, you know, is everything you guys are going to be doing based out of Texas? Like a lot of the nonprofits that we've touched base with so far are local to me because it's people that I know. It's nonprofits that I know from here. Um, so the one great thing about the Freedom Alliance is you guys are nationwide, and not only are you guys nationwide, you guys, eh, for everything that I know of, bring the service member or whoever you're bringing on, a trip or whatever, from where they are, and that's kind of very uncommon. Um, would you mind kind of I wouldn't say diving into, is there any programs that don't run nationwide, or is everything that you guys do nationwide?
Uh, I think most of it is nationwide in the sense that we have programs that are uh, about the location and the venue, um,
Hmm.
and so Josh, I think you may have heard me say this at one point, but our philosophy is you guys went to some of the worst places on the face of the earth and you went up against the worst of humanity. And so we believe that if we're going to help you out, we ought to do that in some of the most beautiful places that we can find. And so we've got trips to Alaska, which is gorgeous and peaceful and relaxing. We've got a river trip on the Rogue River in Oregon, which is some of the most beautiful country that the United States has. We do a very intense program down in Costa Rica, which has the best sport fishing in the world and which is incredibly beautiful and relaxing. Um, and, uh, and I won't leave out the great state of Texas because we do some stuff there too. And you got some beautiful places in Florida and Southern California, in the Northeast. And so, yeah, we have a number of events throughout the year, and I also left out Montana and Wyoming, which is gorgeous. And so we really believe that in addition to the fresh air and the sunshine, if you can see mountains and you can see blue water and you can see fish jumping out, and just be in some of the most peaceful, relaxing settings, that only adds to the experience, and it helps the outcome, which is reducing the blood pressure, reducing the anxiety, and being in an environment of trust with other veterans, where you're able to have meaningful conversations. And I would also add on that, Josh, if I may, with our scholarship program, we've got students who are coming from, I think, pretty much all 50 states or close to it.
Yeah, that's kind of what I figured too. And, I'm really trying to like contain myself because when you say things, Tom, you're naming off all these programs, and I'm like, there's so much to unpack with what the Freedom Alliance does on a daily basis. I mean, just me personally, right? I have friends that are still on this earth because of the Freedom Alliance, hands down. Like they are the reason that the people and the service members that I know still exist. Um, and that is powerful. Like, um, there's a bunch of stories, and I don't want to get into too many of them, but just the fact that your team is pretty small. Um, and I feel how many people are on the Freedom Alliance team itself without the
Uh,
volunteers?
yeah, I think we have about 18 right now, with some of them being part time.
Yeah, I mean, the magnitude of the things that you guys do. I mean, you're talking payment-free homes, and you're talking payment-free vehicles and scholarship programs. You really have a team of curated rock stars. I mean, um, and I know almost, I think every single one of them. And they really are. And everybody there cares about what they do. Um, and one story is I was able to reach out to you guys and place somebody, and just reach out to one of the guys and say, hey, there's somebody that just hit me up who's in a really bad place. They have never been involved with the Freedom Alliance. I know they qualify and meet the criteria because I know what the criteria is to qualify for the Freedom Alliance, but this person needs something and they need it now. If there is any way possible, would it be, out of the question to try and get them on something to pull them out of the situation that they were in? And you guys did it, and that person did it, and it literally saved their life. And he's going to be a guest in the future on the show. He's going to have his own spotlight episode, and I'll let him tell his story. But um, it's really just there's so many life changing stories. Um, so if we could, we met in Montana on the Montana retreat. I had no idea what I was getting into. I just saw that you guys, because I was originally supposed to go on a fishing trip on War Heroes on Water, and it got postponed for the pandemic. And then the first thing I had seen was the fishing in Montana and climbing the mountains and all this stuff. And I was like, oh, that looks cool. And it was like last minute. And I was like, could I go? I asked my boss, and he's like, yeah. He's like, you're set to retire here pretty soon. Probably be pretty good for you to get out and do something. So I went, and you were actually on it. I had no idea who you were. I just thought you were another guy on the trip. And then come to find out, you're running this whole thing. But I did not know that it was going to be a retreat. I did not know that it was going to be working through Dr. Tick's information. Hodge, Dr. Tick he's a well-renowned psychologist, right, Tom?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, been doing it since like Vietnam. And he's worked with, I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of veterans that he's worked with, but they ran us through that whole thing. And some of the stuff that we did on the retreat, I thought was, I was still in. So I thought it was like, the one thing I talked about before was the exercise at the pool. And I was like, that's not really going to get me, and then you do the exercise, and, Ron Rule was on the other side of the pool and wrapped a towel around me and said, welcome home. And I lost my mind. I absolutely lost it. The fact that this Korean War veteran is going out of his way to put a ranch together to have veterans out to Montana was just insane. But what drew you to the Freedom Alliance when you came on board? I know you've been in the Freedom Alliance longer than I was in the military, probably.
Yeah, I came in summer of 1998, so I've been here 27 years now, I think,
Dang.
and it's been a long journey. And so, when I came in, it was I had been working in Congress at the time. I was working for a member of Congress, and the founder of the organization, Ollie North, who's a Marine, served 22 years. And he called me up and said that he was looking for somebody to run the outfit. And one thing led to another, and I came in, And so that was just about 3 years, 2.5 years or so before 9/11. And the organization was founded right at the time of the first Gulf War. But because that was so short-lived, thankfully, uh, Freedom Alliance had some fits and starts, and got to the point where I came in, and then 9/11 happened, and we just brushed off some of the old playbook and put some programs back in place, and it took off from there, and um, and so our programs and our outreach have adapted over the years. The things that we were doing in 2002 and 2003, 4, 5 are different from what we're doing today, because some of the early projects we were gathering foam cards and sending them out to troops overseas, and before any of the FOBs got up, and the bases and all that, and sending care packages. That's something we've done throughout our history. Um, but and then as troops were coming back and going into the hospitals, we started working through there and doing some programs. And then once there was a cohort of troops who needed to get out of the hospitals, for an afternoon or a weekend, then we started putting some outdoor events together, and it just kind of grew from there. And we've adapted them over the way. We've found how much it helps, how meaningful it is, and then you attract the attention of great people who have the resources, like Ron Rule, who has a beautiful ranch
Mhm.
out there in Montana. And when they say, "Hey, I'd like to host some troops," and you go out and you visit the place and you say, "Yeah, I think this will work," because it's scenic, it's beautiful, and
It's the
and
nicest
and then
ranch you've ever seen.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then you're able to have a meaningful event like you were describing, Josh. And
Mhm.
real quick, for those who are watching us, the way we do it for something like that, and this is fairly typical across our retreats, is you're going to have an activity out there. I think we had horsemanship and a float down the river, a hike, uh, some other activities, but then you're also going to have in the afternoon you come back and you have meaningful conversation, and you have somebody who can lead that conversation, and have exercises where you're prompting veterans to to tell their stories, to identify where they're hurting, and and work through it. But in order to do that, you've got to create an environment of trust, and you've got to invite the right kinds of veterans. And what I mean by that are those that have similar experiences, that are going to be willing to open up with their peers, if you will. And that's really where our team comes in. And so you got guys like Pepper Ayler and Mike Nares and Justin Sabo, who understand these things and put a lot of work in ahead of time, talk to the veterans before extending the invite for a particular event, and know who they're bringing out and where they are in their rehabilitation, so that the group that you form of 8 or 10 veterans are have similar experiences, and each one hopefully is going to have a positive experience. Uh, and that team, which you referred to, what would you call them, rock stars?
Mhm.
They're amazing people, and they're very dedicated, and they're very talented. And those 18 people or so do the work of probably 30, 35. A lot of times when people ask, "How big is your staff?" And I tell them what it is, they say, "I thought it was twice that amount," because that's the amount of output that they generate.
Yeah, you
I
guys
know,
do a ton all the time. It is really mind blowing to see it. Even knowing the Freedom Alliance, knowing your staff isn't that big, just seeing, Hodge, what you got.
no, I watched some of the Costa Rica stuff with Pepper, and I think Obviously everybody knows now, like the group of rock stars is quite small, but we've interviewed other people and they have a much larger staff. I think a lot of people have this stigma about going out on these things because they're going to be kind of herded through. You guys break it down into a lot more smaller veteran groups. It's awesome to see you supporting the guys that in the GWAT area, because we feel like the government was like, "Hey, we need you to go do some good guy stuff to some bad guys, and here's a blank check, and here we go." And 20 years later, Mr. Tom, like I can speak for some, like your body just deteriorates. It messes with your mind. It makes you feel like you're broken. For me and Josh, when we started this project, I don't know how to answer it. Maybe Josh can, but I wanted to ask you, what do you say when people automatically assume that we're just all broken? Like how does that come about? I mean, we have different scars and I think we have that scar tissue, but we signed up to do it and everybody just thinks we're broken. How do we get past that stigma?
Yeah, it's a great question, Hodge, and it's one with not an easy answer, but what we like to we like to talk about healing and healing veterans, and our motto is healing the wounds of war, and so if you're going to be healing, that means you're not permanently broken, right? Because you have the opportunity to get better, you have hope, you have something to work toward, and that's really important. Um, I think a lot of this in the early years of the war, you had a lot of advertisements on TV that showed only those visible injuries, and um, and so the public came to understand uh, that the scars of war were burns, lost limbs, maybe other visible injuries. And when we would try to talk about moral injury or emotional injury, it really did not resonate for a number of years with the public because they just didn't get it, or they didn't accept that that was part of what you're going through. So that was one part of it. The other part for us, and some of our programs get into this, is we try to avoid that narrative about veterans coming home and quote unquote returning to the civilian population. And what we try to talk about is you're not civilians, and you're never going to be civilians again. You're you're veterans, you're warriors, you have the warrior spirit. You've done things and been to places that most Americans will never go to or experience. And by virtue of being in combat and surviving, uh, and have fought and carrying those wounds, you have something to offer society. You've got a wisdom, a knowledge, an experience, a pain that can help other parts of society understand what combat is, what war is all about, how, as a nation, we can avoid it, to the extent that we're able, and why we should uh, enter it only very grudgingly, very reluctantly, because you're able to share with us and teach us what those horrors really are, and so that should elevate you in certain ways in the public's eye, and allow you to be a teacher rather than a victim, be a leader rather than a patient. And I think, and the third part of it is, and this is very difficult. I've spent a lot of time thinking about this, and I'm not sure what the answer is, but we've got a Veterans Administration. And that Veterans Administration incentivizes veterans to be sick, to be ill, to be permanently disabled. And and it's understandable in a sense, but I think too many veterans fall into the trap of believing that they um, are that they're not able to ever get better. That the scars they have are permanent, and they can't be improved upon. They can't be overcome, and that's very dangerous because if because you want to keep increasing your disability percentage so that you're getting a little bit more financial incentive, right? So that's a tougher part, and I know several people have written books on that, and we'll figure it out one day. But um, it's it. I hope that gives an answer to the question.
So I just think through experience, right? It's just through a different lens. Like we're not the stigma isn't that we're all broken. We just have something that's unique, and only a like-minded group of people can understand what that different feels like. So until you're put around it, and I think that's what's unique about what you guys do, especially offshore, is you put those small groups together. You still do the recreational activities, but then you're put into an environment where everyone in that room has been in combat. And for that, I would say most of the time camaraderie that would come out of that, but the healing aspect of things is it's just experience. I think civilians look at it completely different. So I'm just trying to find a polite way of saying, like, we're not broken. We just experience something that you will never experience. And it could add to a situation where it pans out to be an attribute, a skill set that, you think well under pressure, or you lead well when the stakes are high. And I think that's where the stigma starts to kind of like root in, and everybody starts to feel like, oh, I am broke just because these people don't value my skill set, which is crazy because you guys are highlighting it and you're wanting it to continue to push out through your programs. I just think it's unique, and I just wanted to get your take on it.
Well, I tell you, another part of this, and something I've witnessed and I admire very much, is I think one of the great untold stories in this GWAT generation is that the veterans themselves, you all have established maybe the greatest healing network there is, because I have seen, like, literally been with a combat veteran who gets a phone call from another veteran and just says the words, "I'm having a rough day, man. It's not going well." And that veteran who's receiving the phone call says, "I'll be there in a few hours." And he goes, puts the cooler in the back of the truck, gets a sleeping bag, and drives 3 or 4 hours, and then spends the weekend or whatever amount of time to get him through that. There's no fanfare to that. Stories are not written about it. Movies are not made about that, but I've seen it firsthand, and I've heard many other stories like that. Um, and just one veteran being up with another for 4 or 5 hours on the phone, just getting them through the night. And so you all are healing each other, and you've all established those informal networks, those phone trees that that have kept your brothers alive. And I think it's not only admirable, it's extraordinarily impressive, and there ought to be some recognition of that.
I think it's
And
quite unique as well. Josh, he always tells people at the end of most of those videos I watch, Josh is very much the social media guy when it comes to the outreach project. But he tends to tell people this, and I think this is the fourth time I've said it to someone else, but he quite literally, when he says, "Hey, my phone number is on my website or my card," it's his cell phone number. It's wild. Not saying I won't do it. It's just he just puts himself out there. Now he's got a 3-year head start. I'll give him that. But the fact that there's people out there that's willing to do that, it's amazing. And I think we've pushed past that. I wouldn't call it the locker room when it comes to like the mental health or the emotional things, but we very much grew up in a very hard generation where our fathers were tough, and you never showed emotion, and we were raised by those men, and I stand firm that those were that is the warrior, and we are just we're just trying to live up to the name, but at the same time, this the idea of like showing your emotions, it wasn't taken very well, and especially in certain MOSs or AFSCs. But now I think people have lived through that, and they're just like, we don't want to do this shit anymore. We're going to make sure our guys are taken care of. And if that's a supervisor getting armed with this type of information, or Josh giving his number out on a business card, I think that's how we're pushing past it. And yeah, you're right. It is untold stories, but man, I can look to the left and look to the right, and there's always someone there that I can rely on if I needed help. And I think that's most people's story too. And if they're not, I mean, all you got to do is reach out, and I guarantee you someone will take the time to do it.
Yep.
Yeah, the first Montana trip that I went on, I ended up going back as a, like the mentor kind of role to try and help other guys go through it too. But for anybody listening, like if you've ever been on the fence about signing up for something to get involved in, like I can't say enough about the Freedom Alliance. I really can't. If you qualify, if you get on the site, you meet the criteria to sign up, you need to sign up and just go. Find an event that makes sense to you and go. And I try and make it make sense for people. You guys started me on this journey, like the Freedom Alliance is what I literally was in my last year in the military. I went there, I got on the Montana trip. And I came back and, I couldn't totally unpack everything because I was still in. So I was still had to, just in case I was still in the fight, you know what I mean? I think I was the only one on that trip that wasn't out of the military at the time. But I went back and I was like, I didn't know organizations like that existed. I had no idea what I was getting into, but it really created this whole journey is because of the Freedom Alliance. That's what, opened my eyes to the nonprofit world in general. But man, it's just so powerful. And I kind of want to get into some of the programs, if you don't mind. And one thing that I was talking to Josh Miles, who was also on that same trip we were on, and he had mentioned track wheelchairs. And it just so happened that we had a guy in our unit that had just had his leg amputated. He was a combat controller and had some bad stuff happen with his leg on jumping over time and had to have his leg amputated. And he's like, the Freedom Alliance also does a track wheelchair program where we provide track wheelchairs as needed. And since then, I've seen you give out, I don't know how many, probably 1,000 of them since those days. But these, and when I say track wheelchairs, I mean, these are awesome.
Tanks, tanks, man, just running around.
Yeah. And the cool part is I got back and I was like, well, I actually have a guy that would need that. If he could get it. He literally just got property out in the middle of nowhere in the sticks and had his leg amputated and had no way to get around his property to go hunt and do things with his kids and his family. And you came out there and presented one to him. I don't know what that was, not even 6 months later, probably. But if you want to talk a little bit about the track wheelchair program and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, sure. Happy to. It's now about 80 veterans, amputees or spinal injuries, paralyzed vets that we've given these chairs to. And as you say, that's what they are. They look like a tank, and they're all terrain. So you can go through the snow, the mud, sleet, get down on the beach, get down to the lakeside, hiking trails if they're wide enough. And it just gives the veteran much more mobility, much more independence, and much more access to the outdoors. So we were talking earlier about, being in the sunshine and the fresh air. But if you're in a position where you don't have one of these, or you got to rely on your friends, and I had several veterans tell me before they got this chair, they said, yeah, I love hunting. I want to go out, but it really sucks to, call up your friend and say, hey, would you mind, bear carrying me, into the woods? Because even if you've got prosthetics, it's hard to go into the woods because you're going to trip on, brambles and twigs and whatnot. And so having one of these chairs really makes a difference. The other way it makes a difference is that if you've got a little bit of property, and you've got a long distance from your garage out to the street, now you have no excuse not to take out the trash for your wife, right? So
You're setting them
yeah,
up for failure, Mr. Tom. They're back on
Oh, you're
honeydew
going to get a
list.
lot of comments about that.
Oh no, you're putting them back on
how
honeydew
much
list.
how we appreciate the family. Well, that's it. We're happy wife, happy life.
Yeah, yeah.
And and so yeah, we've helped about 80 veterans with these now. And Josh, I remember that going out to um, that place. I forget the veteran's name, but he had great dogs.
Justin.
The retrieval dogs, and we were playing with them for a while. Um, and so that just adds to their ability to just to have a fun time and enjoy it. And I think my favorite times with those is when you give it to a veteran and he's got young kids. And in one case, we put a veteran in one of these, and he started driving it around a little bit, and then the kids were chasing him, and he was chasing the kids, and that's the first time he was able to be active with his kids.
Mm.
Other times, the kids get on his lap and starts driving around with this thing, and in all cases, he gets in that thing, and we've given him to several women, a number of female veterans, who are amputees and love being in the outdoors, and it attracts attention. People are like, "Oh, look at that, man! That's really cool. What is that all about?" And so these are big, expensive products, but we've got supporters who are willing to fund them for vets. And as I said, they'll get them anywhere. They last probably, 10, 12, 13 years, depending on how much you use it. And that's probably if you're using it very consistently. It'd be longer if it's just intermittently. But it allows veterans to participate in those activities that they love, that they grew up doing, and just give them a sense of independence. You know how we are. We're guys. We don't like to rely on others to get us to the grocery store or carry us or anything like that. We want to be able to be free and go do the things that we enjoy doing. And having a customized wheelchair like this will do it. And the outfitter that we've got that we use for this, they do a good job. And so you've got a place for your rifle and your fishing rod. You got a cooler in the back. And I was just down in Florida about 2 weeks ago, and we outfitted 2 veterans with these things. And at one of them, the media was there and asking, just doing a story on it. And one of the reporters asked the veteran as he's sitting in the chair, "So what's your favorite part about this chair?" And he said, "The cup holder, because that's where I can put my beer."
Of course it is.
And that's but it is. It's got headlights on it, and it's heavy duty. So if you go out and you get yourself a deer, you bring a chain and you wrap it up, and you could drag it out if needed. And it just yeah, they're great, and I love seeing the joy that comes with presenting one of these to somebody in need. I'll never forget the very first time that we gave away one of these chairs. It was in San Diego. It was to a Marine who was a double amputee. And there are 2 things that I really remember about this. One is uh, we did it right around Christmas time, and so being in the warm weather in San Diego at Christmas was unusual. But we did it on the beach, and they've got these dunes there, and we had about 5 or 6 TV stations out there. And so this Marine, of course, wants to test it out, and
He's got to hit those dunes.
he's taking it
God.
up the dune, and it's a steep one, and so he's going like this. And I'm going, "Oh my God, he's going to flip over in front of all these TV cameras." But it didn't, it's stable. It made it up and down. But the part that was really cool was he had said at the outset that what he really wanted was to be able to go for a walk on the beach with his wife. And so the visual that came out of that was when everything settled down, he was riding that chair and his wife was holding his hand and walking beside him right on the edge of the water there. And that was a dream that he didn't know that he would be able to do again. And so, and that touches your heart, when you can see that, and you can um, allow a husband and a wife to have that moment of intimacy again, and romance. Um, it's a beautiful thing.
I was just going to say, Mr. Tom, it's great that the dude's like, hey, I could put my beer here, because a lot of people don't understand the sense of humor that veterans have, because you've gone into these places, and I try to tell my kids they'll never understand this, but I was like, being in a situation that's terrible, but having friends to laugh about it and get you through it. On the backside of all this, our sense of humor is probably ridiculous to most people, but I mean, that is the mindset of most of these guys, is just like, yeah, I can put my beer here. I got a cooler in the back. I can throw some beer in, drag a deer out. But, everybody else they're just looking at it as like, this poor guy just needs help. I'm like, yeah, he needs help. But dude, he's going to be going around with a 24 pack in the cooler, and he's going to be having a good time. You don't need to worry about him. He just needs a wheelchair. And then boom, you guys make that happen to do that normal stuff again. I know we talked off camera about some other episodes, but other people don't realize how hard it is to just have a normal day sometimes. And these people are just begging for it. And when you guys deliver and you are able to give that veteran that intimate moment with his wife, I mean, I'm assuming that is the thing that just keeps driving the whole organization, is just one key event after another. So the cup's got to be full every day for you guys.
It is. And I'll tell you, I often, people will ask, you get to work with veterans, and what's that like? And I'll tell them it's great for a lot of reasons, but among them is the gallows humor, and you learn all the best curse words, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And one story. So, and the sense of humor is just, we had an event, this goes back years ago, and we had taken a number of veterans to the US Open up in New York. And so we're walking around the city, and I guess it was about four or five guys were out, and each of them were amputees of one kind or another. And so they're walking near Times Square, and this pack of young girls comes by, 20s girls, and they start up a conversation, and the veterans had the girls convinced that they had been extras on Shark Week, and that's where their just came from.
Oh, man,
I'm not surprised, and I probably know who they are.
They probably have a different story for each limb every time they go to a different state. That's what's great about it, is those guys, even though they've gone through that experience, and most people would think it's traumatic, they can grin and just kind of make up a story. Is like, hey, watch my foot, and you look down and he's got no legs. You're like, man, what the? You're like, come on, man, like you can't be doing that to me. And he's like, oh, don't worry about it. But we've got people like that all over the place, and it's great to see that they're able to kind of cope with it through the sense of humor, because that gets me through a lot too, Mr. Tom. I got to look at Josh's face every day. I got to do something to get myself through it. You know what I mean?
We were on a cruise, and it was Montreal, the Canada New England cruise. And so we were up in the Montreal area, and we got off the boat, and one of the veterans we had with us, he's no longer with us, Brian Delberian. And Brian was a triple amputee with a number of other scars. And so you get off and you're walking around, and there was this festival, and at this festival there was a tent with recruiters for the Canadian military. So Brian goes over there and he strikes up a conversation, and at some point he says to him, well, I probably ought to get going, because I don't think I'm doing much for your foot traffic.
I'm telling you, I love the fact that every time we say something, it kicks up another story. Because you've been doing this for 27 years. You probably have a lot of these locked away, but man, I love it. I love it so much.
The one thing, Hodge, that you brought up, as far as the trips go, the small groups, most of the trips that I've been on with the Freedom Alliance, are broken down into those kind of numbers. And
Yeah.
that's for anybody listening. A lot of people are kind of hesitant sometimes, I think, when they think they're going to be one in the crowd. You know what I mean? And especially if you're doing some work. And the one thing that I really like about the Freedom Alliance is that not all the trips are the same. Not all of them are a sit down, work on, retreat type style. Like the Oregon trip was just boating, fishing down the real river for like 70 miles over 3 or 4 days. And, that makes it, for us, like for what I just say as combat dudes, um, if you're going to sit around and tell stories and unpack that kind of stuff, it's not going to be in a group of 35 to 40 people. It's going to be a couple people that will let each other talk, let each other let some emotions out and stuff like that. And that's really what I've seen. Other than the one main one is War Heroes on Water. And I tell people that when they apply for the Freedom Alliance, I'm like, War Heroes on Water is an event. It is the biggest, event that I've ever been involved in. Um, it's amazing, but it's the largest nonprofit fishing tournament in the world for veterans. And and Tom, I know, I want to let you talk about it, but um, that's on another level. And I think that's like I don't know, the spotlight rock star event. But
Those guys stay
what do you,
hydrated out there, Mr. Tom, or what? They got
oh
a lot
man.
of you
Yeah.
got a lot of hydration going on.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. They
I love
certainly
it.
do. Yeah. We're Heroes on Water. It's a great partner with Freedom Alliance, and it was conceived by Anthony Shea, who is the founder of Loan Depot, which is an online mortgage company. And Anthony is somebody who has a good number of resources at his disposal, let's say, and and found out about what Freedom Alliance was doing and approached us and said he'd like to take some veterans out fishing. And because Anthony is a fisherman, and most sport fishermen would say that Anthony is one of the best sport fishermen in the world. And he's currently on a world tour in which he's going all over the world over the course of 3 or 4 years, doing sport fishing. And he's got the fleet to be able to do that. But he took a number of veterans down to Cabo San Lucas and treated them, and he got as much out of it, maybe more than the veterans did. And so he said, let me just reach out to the sport fishing community in Southern California, which he knows very well, and the business partners that he has worked with over many years, and started this thing called War Heroes on Water, which Freedom Alliance is now the main partner with. And so we're bringing about 100 to 120 veterans out. We get about 50 to 60 of the most beautiful fishing yachts in sport fishing,
Oh yeah.
with
Oh
the
yeah.
most generous owners and the best captains and crews that you would ever want. And so we get out there and we have what's it, 5 or 6 days of activities, about 3 of which are on the water. And what's great about this is it is what Josh just described, the largest fishing tournament for veterans. But at the same time, it is what Josh described earlier, which is small group. And what
Yeah.
I mean by that is when it comes time to board the boats, we get about 2 or 3 veterans per yacht. And for the next 3 days, you're in a small group of 3 guys and you're talking it out, in between, bringing in tuna and marlin and whatnot. um, and that's where it becomes very important, as I said earlier, with somebody like Mike Nares, who's on our team here at Freedom Alliance, who is a combat veteran decorated with the Bronze Star, who does those assignments, gets to know all the vets, and knows who's going to work well together, not just, veteran to veteran, but um, the accommodations on the yacht, the crew members, the owner, and he puts all that together and works magic. And it it all comes together. But there's a community there in Southern California in the financial services industry, the mortgage industry, the sport fishing community, and some philanthropists and just people who love our veterans that come together and make this work. And it is really amazing to see. And the thing I was talking about earlier about veterans, calling each other late at night, that's the other great thing that comes out of War Heroes on Water, because the veterans who spend, 3 full days out on the water, they make friends with the crew members. And often when they have those difficult times, it is the crew member or the captain of that boat that they're calling, that they've befriended, that they have come to trust, and they're willing to reach out to them with that very sensitive phone call of, I'm having a hard night, I'm having a hard time, and I need somebody to talk to. And so that leverages our resources at Freedom Alliance, um, where now the veterans that we're trying to help have other people that they can reach out to, that they like, they trust, they enjoy their company. And there's a lot of that back and forth throughout the year, in between the annual events.
Now you
It's
guys,
almost like a networking event as much
yeah,
as it
yeah,
is,
that's what I was about to say.
as for a lot of things. You don't go out of your way just to network there, but it happens naturally.
Yeah.
But yeah, what were you gonna say, Hodge?
I would say the same thing. It's like it's a network. You're building that network. People don't know
Hmm.
what they're building at the moment because you have, I wouldn't, you have structured it in a way that that's actually happening. Because if you're out there and you're vetting who's going on what boat and why, and they're going to share those experiences, they're going to lock up and they're going to be, they're going to be a team out there. And then through that camaraderie, they're going to go back and they're going to be like, I can rely on this guy, or hey, that guy, he knows exactly what I went through because he went through it himself. So he just builds another network. So you guys got a ton of events, Mr. Tom, but
Tons.
you had mentioned some specific events that are that's coming up in this year. What's coming up for the Freedom Alliance, and what can people look forward to?
Yeah, this is going to be a big year for us. And just, one other thing I want to mention before I get into that on the War Heroes on Water. The other great thing that happens during this is you've got the veterans and the crew. And I mentioned how the crew members, can be very helpful to the veterans. But there have been a number of occasions over the years when the crew members, where the veterans are helping the crew members, because they're saying, hey, I've been having a tough time, or I've got a relative who's, had suicidal ideations or something. And it's the veteran who then is in a position of helping the civilian. And what does that do? It puts the veteran right back where they started, which is, I want to help, I want to serve, I want to protect others. I have a purpose, and I'm able to teach, and I'm able to share that warrior experience with somebody who needs it. And so that's the other beautiful thing that comes out of it, not just at War Heroes, but at many of these events. But yeah, look, we're in 2026 and this is a big year. Number of milestones are coming up this year. So first, um, if you didn't know, America, Uncle Sam is having a big birthday, 250 years. And that's important for us, because at the heart of what we do at Freedom Alliance is patriotism, right? It's love of country. And so we've got a few projects going on where we enlisted our founder, Ollie North, to narrate a video series. We're going to put out a series of at least 24 videos. We call them American Moments with Ollie North. And what we're doing is just looking back at certain moments in American history, um, that are celebratory, that are great, that are indicative of our hope and resilience and our ability to find victory and overcome challenges. And and so he's putting those out, and we're also getting all of our scholarship students to write essays about uh, America's founding and what it means for them being coming from a family of military service, and usually a long line of military service. And if they could go back in time and in at any event in American history and be a part of it, what would it be? And so those essays are really interesting and fun to read and well written. And then and we're going to have a number of other celebrations and projects around America's 250th birthday, because I think it's really cool. I was a young kid during the bicentennial of 200 years, and I remember some of that in 1976, and and I just feel like we're in a time in our history where it our politics is very polarized. Our uh, Many of our citizens have lost faith in the country. Some of them don't believe that their kids are going to have a better future than what they had. And we've got to remember that America is the greatest country in the world. And we're a great country because of our people. And whether it's for our veterans who've served, or our entrepreneurs who create jobs, um, our athletes who give us celebratory moments, the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat, we're we're a unique nation, and we need to recognize that even though we've had our challenges over 250 years, we've always overcome, and it- we've found better once we get over that hurdle. So that's the mindset that Freedom Alliance brings to America's 250th birthday. Um, the other
I
thing
love it.
is in September we're going to commemorate a tragic day, which was September 11th, 2001. It'll be 25 years since that day. It's a day I'll never forget because I was on a plane that morning, and my flight was probably one of the last to take off that morning, and and we were diverted to a different airport from what our destination was. But that's the day that really led to so many, like you guys, like so many in your generation, who raised their right hand, took that oath, and wanted to serve and wanted to go overseas uh, and represent their fellow countrymen to the Taliban and to Al Qaeda, and say, we're here because we want to let you know what you did, um, and what the answer we want to give you. And and then the other thing, that day of 9/11 led to 25 years of war. And the way that war ended, it was very sad and unfortunate and probably unnecessary. It ended with the loss of 13 service members, a soldier, a corpsman, and 11 Marines at Abbey Gate in at the airport there in Kabul. And I think that was one of the instances that made a lot of veterans look at their service and um, and ask a lot of questions. Why?
Mm.
What? Why did my friend have to die for this? And why didn't we have victory in the end? And why is the Taliban back? And other questions like that. And we want to make sure that those 13 service members are never forgotten, that their memories are honored, um, that they are with all the others, the 7,000 plus that lost their lives in Iraq, Afghanistan, and the GWAT era, um, the many thousands who were wounded, and just ensure that um, their service and their sacrifice is honored and remembered, and was and is and remains meaningful, even though we had that tragedy at Abbey Gate. Um, that doesn't erase the heroism and the courage and the sacrifice that took place all those years before that. And anybody who served in Iraq or Afghanistan or in GWAT ought to be proud of their service, ought to know that it did mean something, ought to know that they are among the finest diplomats our country has ever sent anywhere, that the public is proud of them, um, and wants to be able to show that pride and that appreciation. And in many cases, they do it through Freedom Alliance or one of the other great organizations that you have had or will have on this great podcast.
I want to be honest with you, Mr. Tom. When you're talking about the celebration of America, I'm about ready to run through a wall right now. I'm not. And then you bring up 9/11. We're just doubling down on some stuff. Just a whole lot of freedom running through the veins right now.
The one of the things that I remember somebody saying at the after the banquet for the award ceremony at War Heroes on Water with Beak, fishing legend, veteran, just an amazing human being. But he got up on stage. He was a Vietnam veteran. He made it a point, he was holding it together, but he was like, I'm so happy to see you guys these days being treated better than we were coming home from Vietnam. And he's a part of that. I mean, he's a huge supporter of the Freedom Alliance too. And like a major part of the fishing community out in California, total legend. But it really is, man. I like I told Hodge before, I was like, I wish I could make everybody sign up. I'm hoping that the traffic putting you guys in front of them will make people, get online, apply, and get in the network. The other cool thing that I've kind of seen with the Freedom Alliance kind of specifically is once you're in a program or once you're in if you get selected, let's just say to go to Costa Rica, to go hang out with Pepper and do the offshore experience, you're in the network, and you kind of just bounce around. Like you've heard of all these places and things. It'll just be somebody random, whoever's running that program, that hits you up and says, hey, what are you doing, in May? Can you go to Alaska? And you'd be like, of course I can go to Alaska. But that is kind of how it works.
Yeah, we're like the Hotel California. You can check out, but you can never leave.
And it's cool, man. It's just you're really like, and I've said that before too, but it's like a family. I have more friends most of my friends now, post-military, are from people that I've met either that work for the Freedom Alliance or I've met through the Freedom Alliance. Like I truly found my new tribe in the Freedom Alliance. When I call people on a weekly basis, it's people that I know through the Freedom Alliance, which kind of brings me to another point that I think people have been kind of hesitant is females signing up for, talking about the combat stuff and all that. You show up to any Freedom Alliance event that I've seen, and there's female combat veterans there too. And one of my friends, Amy Lockhart, she shows up to War Heroes on Water and she'll outfish anyone on the planet. She's a pro. So, if there's any hesitation in the world for a female combat veteran to put themselves out there, my mom has been out to, visit Costa Rica and linked up with Pepper before my mom passed away. That's how much I trust the Freedom Alliance. I sent my mom out there to go hang out with Pepper because he's an amazing human being, super religious man, and I love that guy. But I literally...
I wouldn't send my mom to hang out with Pepper.
Yeah, but I mean, you really did, man. It was that's a whole nother story. But before my mom passed away, linking my mom up to Pepper and them, like they could not have had a better time. And I hope that people know that, man, it's the place that you need to go. You need to get involved. You really do. Yeah. If you qualify, then get on there and sign up. What about the one thing we haven't really hit on is the homes program.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us a little bit about that? I know we talked scholarships. I don't think we've talked homes yet.
Yeah, happy to. So we've got a really great partnership with U.S. Bank, and with them, we are providing mortgage-free homes and payment-free vehicles. And the way we do that is, they give us, a lot of their corporate expertise in being able to select communities and developers that we can work with. And, we select a home and then we go out and find a veteran to put in that home. And so far, we have been able to put 25 military families into new homes because of that partnership. The way it works with us, we're a little bit different than, some of the other organizations that build the homes from scratch and do the smart homes for the very severely wounded. The veterans that we're putting in may have some, do have some physical injuries, but they're not limiting in the way that the severely wounded are. But there's a lot of emotional injury, and so we're able to go in and into a community and buy a home and then put a veteran into it with really little or no um, improvements in the sense of, wheelchair ramps or lower cabinets or
Mm.
anything like that. So, one that we did last year, we had a um, young guy named Stuart. He's a Navy corpsman, and he was in some really bad firefights and lost a number of his buddies. This was interesting because Stewart was born and raised in Hawaii. He spent most of his adult life in San Diego, and we gave him a home in Fargo, North Dakota. So with
Nice.
that home, we gave him a new parka and some mittens and a scarf and all the rest of it.
Mhm.
Um,
Mm.
but what's interesting about that is that he had spent time prior to that in a cold environment, said he really liked it, but more importantly, he was just at a place in his rehabilitation where he needed to get out of the military town that he was in. He was in San Diego, and so he was around veterans and active duty Marines and all and Navy. And he said it was too much for him. It was weighing him down and it was preventing him from getting to a better place in his rehabilitation. So he wanted to go to some other community where there was less of that influence that allowed him to focus on other things. And so up there in Fargo, he's doing great. He's got a new job. He's got a girlfriend. He's got a new cat, and he's thriving. And that's what these homes are able to do. In his case, he's a bachelor, but in most cases, it's a family that we're putting into the home. And so, number one, it reduces the stress of having to make that monthly mortgage or monthly rental payment. Secondly, it is a place of their own, which, as you guys know, if you're in the military and you spend in any period of time in the military, you're moving from base to base, from community to community. You sleep in foxholes, you sleep in the dirt, and and when you get a place like your own home that provides stability and safety and belonging, that means a lot. And it really helps with the rehabilitation and it really helps them to focus now on their family and getting to their VA appointments. So we're really pleased to have this partnership with US Bank. And the way we work it is when we present a home to a veteran, what we're doing is Freedom Alliance owns the home and then we lease it to the veteran for a period of 2 years. And once they complete that successfully, then we present them the deed and we ask that they just don't sell the home for a period of 3 additional years. And, in many cases, it becomes their forever home. In a few cases, they've had to sell and move into something different, but it becomes a place where we hope that they make new family members, new memories, and make new friends.
Yeah, That's awesome. The other thing too is what about the vehicles as well? I mean, I know are they both kind of done the same way as far as vehicle? I don't know how many you guys have done. I know you guys have done a few, um, but are they kind of selected in the same way?
Yeah, very similar. So, again, we work with US Bank on that project, and we've outfitted, I think it's 65 or more military families with brand new vehicles, and we just have the veterans apply, and we look through it, and just do a little bit of background check, make sure it's all checks out, and then give them this new vehicle. And so what we find, Josh, is that so many veterans, um, they're running on vehicles that have 250,000 miles on them. They're about to break down, and in most of the cases I hear, their VA is at least 30 miles, maybe 45, 50 miles from their home. And oftentimes they don't make those appointments because they're worried, is the car going to start? Is it going to make it all the way there and back? Or it's
Mm,
going to be unreliable in the rain or the snow or inclement weather. And so getting a new vehicle that relieves the stress, they know that when they go out there in the morning, it's going to start, it's going to get them to where they want to go. And now they have no excuse not to go to their rehab appointments. But there's just been a number of cases where they tell us, just in order to go to the grocery store, they had to borrow the car of a neighbor or get a cab or an Uber. And, it's just a sad thing. So, uh, we've had a few instances recently where the vehicle that we gave them was big enough where all the family members could be in it at one time, and so they could go on a family vacation for the first time. And again, that's bringing the family together. That's um, helping the veteran uh, to be the husband and the father that he wants to be. And it's a little thing, like a vehicle that helps him provide for his family.
yeah, I have I think I have like a million stories from my time with the Freedom Alliance. There's a lot of funny stories, a lot of kind of heart wrenching stories too. But a cool thing happened this last year, not to do with the homes, but one of the guys that I had gotten to sign up, I didn't do the War Heroes on Water this last year. He was there, and I tell people about the Freedom Alliance quite a bit, and I'm like, I'm sign up if you qualify, sign up, and just get in the mix. Whether you get a phone call a year from now or whatever, it is what it is. But he called me or messaged me on Facebook and was like, "Hey, I'm on my boat at War Heroes on Water, and I'm here with some kid who said some guy. He said he went to high school with you." And I was like, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah, there's this Green Beret on the boat. He said he went to high school with you." I was like, "Adam Spray's on your boat?" And he's like, "Yeah, Adam's on my boat." And I had told Adam about the Freedom Alliance. He retired right after I did, but like 2 years ago. And then I reached out to Mike, who does all the names. He's like, "Yeah, that's why I put them together, because they both knew you." But the cool part was that I had told the one guy about it, and then he had told somebody else about it, and then I had told Adam about it, and they're all in the same boat. Um, and it's just the chain reaction of that network kind of spreading out and touching more and more people, that it's just really cool to see. And when you have people like Anthony Shea and Ron Rule, the Rules, as a family, Rule is a last name, Hodge. But when I was talking to Pepper, how that kind of all went down, and I don't want to mess it up, but their whole family was kind of involved. And he said, Pepper, I think it was Pepper that had told me that the reason that Ron bought the ranch in Montana was because he wanted to help veterans. Like, that was the main driving factor. And this ranch is amazing. Like, it's beautiful. Um, but I mean, that's just the kind of people that are there. And when you're around the people at War Heroes on Water, like the boat captains and crews and families that own the boats and stuff like that, it's just I wish I could bottle it up. I really do. I wish I could bottle it up and give it to everybody. When you see that many patriots like at their events supporting, supporting everyone there, it's just it's kind of intense. But I asked Mike, what do you think the next 5 or 10 years for the Freedom Alliance looks like? Like, War Heroes on Water is huge event. I can't imagine it getting bigger. Like, I can't imagine 200 veterans making that. It would be insane. Trying to get that many people to behave themselves without doing something dumb. But, um, what do you see as a trajectory for the Freedom Alliance, maybe in the next like 5 years?
Yeah, I think it's a great question, Josh, and I think it goes to maybe one of the more important points that we want to leave with the public, which is the need is still very great, and
Mm,
the hurt is still there, and so we have to keep offering um, this outreach and these services to veterans because without it, it would we'd be in a much worse place. And so
mm,
we need to keep doing this. I think that we're in a point now where if you the the healing process for veterans has to me a distinct cycle. And the way I break it down real quick is um, if you're wounded on the battlefield and you're evac'd out to a hospital and you make it to Walter Reed and so for your first several weeks, several months, maybe even longer, your objective is to stay alive. And so all your focus and all your energy is to survive. And then you get into a period where you're going to have a lot of surgeries and you just want to make it through one surgery after the other after the other. And then you get into a period of rehabilitation. So let's say you're an amputee who lost both legs. What do you have to do now? For the next several years, probably, you have to learn how to walk. You have to learn how to get prosthetics that fit properly, um, how to how to do all the things that you need to be able to do as somebody who has different kinds of legs. And that rehabilitation process, the first part of it is physical, then it's you got the emotional and all of that. And then you get into a period where you get through all that rehabilitation. Now maybe you want to try and get back into the workforce or go back to school and you have that. And that all leads up to where we are today. And I think we talked a little bit about moral injury. And I think that now that veterans have 15 years behind them of giving their full attention and focus to surviving, rehabbing, um, reintegrating back into society as an elder warrior. Now the moral injury begins to surface a little bit more, and and veterans are thinking about some of those memories that haunt them. And so that's why I believe that having these events is very important because you got to work through that. And what I find is that I think a number of other veterans at this point are asking about, are trying to renew their faith or begin a
mm,
faith journey. They're asking about God and the Bible and prayer, and that's what we're trying to help with as well.
mm,
And that's an important part of the reconciliation um, and getting through that moral injury. Because as I see it, the moral injury, the way I define that is those are feelings of sin, guilt, doubt, remorse, survivor's guilt, and that's not healed in the operating room. That's not healed at the physical rehabilitation center. That's healed either in counseling or in church or synagogue or through your relationship with Jesus Christ. And I find a lot of veterans talking about that, asking us about it. And so that's what I see going forward.
Mm. Yeah, that journey is I think it's pretty special, and you're at such an emotional state for a lot of these guys and girls, as far as like the overwhelming emotional trips that you're on, and homes and things like that. And I'm sure you get a lot of the you know high end wave top with emotions. But um is there any message that you kind of want to leave anybody with? I know that was a really good message, especially on the journey aspect. Is there anything that you can think of that we might have missed that you want to throw out to the world before we let you get off of here?
I would just, I'd say to the public, first of all, thank you, because as we talked about, we've come a long way since Vietnam. We've changed the course of history in how veterans are treated. We've got a long way to go, more work to do, but uh, I would thank uh, all the other organizations who are doing similar kinds of work, and very proud of our team and the supporters that we have at Freedom Alliance that have helped to make that possible. I would say to the American public, as I just did, this healing journey for veterans, in many respects, is just getting started. We've got much more to do, and we need to keep our vets focused on uh, the good and the healing and the possibility of less pain uh, and the wonderful life that they have ahead of them, and help them to reach that with themselves and their families and their careers. Um, and to our veterans, I would first of all say thank you, and God bless you. You're an inspiration to a lot of people, and we admire what you've done. We're grateful for it, and and we admire what you continue to do, because as I just talked about, there what I see in veterans who are on that healing journey, there's two kinds of courage, at least. There's the courage that you displayed on the battlefield, right? Uh, and and I know about that through the stories. I didn't, I wasn't in combat, so I didn't see it personally, but I've learned a lot about it. But what I have witnessed personally, and what I'm very familiar with, is the courage on the home front. And that courage comes in a variety of ways. It's the courage of the guy who lost an arm or fingers, and has to learn how to use his eating utensils differently or button a shirt differently. Um, it's the courage to speak to your spouse, or to um, stand up in front of an audience and tell your story. It's the courage to uh, befriend a stranger, um, who's a brother in arms, but might, you didn't necessarily know before, but because he's had similar experiences, he becomes a friend right away, and to help him through it. And and it's the courage of the children and the spouses to stay with that veteran through the long nights, the difficult times, the bad dreams, the anxiety in a movie theater, and so it's what I get to do is see that kind of stuff every day, and it's admirable and it's noble, and I'm blessed to be able to work with guys like you and gals, and so I thank you for what you've done and for having me on this great program.
Absolutely. And we appreciate it. I mean, more than Tom. But Hodge, what you got, man?
Sounds like you guys have been pretty fluid throughout the years, especially adapting to what it is that you guys provide and things like that. I think it's a definite sustain in a lot of these programs that you already have. They're so great, like making sure that people are taken care of. It takes a lot of stress off of them, and I think that alone will allow them that room and that the ability to grow. And I don't think people quite understand the idea when I say you're broke. We're not broke. We're just trying to figure it out, and we're still trying to figure it out. Like you said, we got more to go. We haven't quite figured out what it is, but most of us ain't going to stop. It's just one of those situations. In 7 years, 8 years, there's going to be a whole new generation of people that come up through the military not knowing what combat is like, hopefully. But I don't think people understand the skill set that people who have been exposed to these types of situations bring back to civilian life. And man, if we could harness that energy, and I feel like through some of the programs that you guys are at least directing that energy back into these veterans to go back into that workforce, civilian force, whatever it may be, man, they're more valuable than they think. And I think once they realize that, they could change the world. And I think that's the message that you guys could. I mean, that's the message I take from this is you believe in the veteran, and the veteran starts to believe in himself through these programs, and they can change anything.
That too. I think you're absolutely right, Hodge. You guys are not broken. It's just, things that, a little bit of WD-40 and duct tape, wouldn't repair. So just apply and get you back on your way.
Yeah, I really appreciate you swapping stories with us, Mr. Tom. But I'm glad you keep those boys hydrated, and it's good to see that they are out there having fun,
having a great time, and it's an honor to be with you all. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Well, Tom, thank you so much. Since we've met, I've always looked up to you. You're like a mentor to me. I love you. I love your entire team. You guys do amazing work, and I mean it. From the bottom of my heart, I can't say any more great things about you guys than I already do. But we appreciate your time. We appreciate your service to veterans and the country, and what you're doing. I hope you do it forever, because you're an amazing human being and you crush it at everything you do. So for us here at the Outreach Project podcast, this is going to be episode 6 wrapping up. If you want to like and subscribe, please do so, and we'll catch you in the next one.